Looking at one last two-variable example, notice I have two angles with x expressions in their measure and one angle with a y expression in their measure. So we want to start by setting up an equation with just x's. And this one's easier to see if you go ahead and draw in that extra box because those x expression angles are corresponding. If you draw in that little extra box, these are both in the upper right-hand corner of that box. They're in the same position. So these are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent when you have those two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So we get to set their measures equal. This is another example where the first equation is those two expressions just being equal to one another. So not too bad to solve. This is a pick on the little guy problem. Subtracting 5x from both sides, we'll move all my variables to the left. Adding 2 to both sides, we'll move my constants to the right. 9x take away 5x is 4x. And on the right side, 54 plus 2 is 56. Last but not least, a bit of division. We'll take care of that coefficient. 4x divided by 4 is just x, which is what we want, x by itself. And 56 divided by 4 is 14. So we found our value for x. Let's go ahead and double check. Double checking that, we had 9 times 14 minus 2. So my first angle, the one in the upper angle, is going to be 124 degrees. And then 5 times 14 plus 54 is also 124. And again, we said these angles were equal. That's the equation we wrote, so we did expect them to get the same measure. So that worked. We know that this value for x is true. Jumping down to that y expression, we have to use linear pair here. Because we have those two angles next to each other, they're adjacent and they form that straight line, they're supplementary, they'll add to 180 degrees. So unlike in previous examples, we don't have an extra choice. There isn't some extra equation that I could set up here. We do have to run with the 181. So it all depends on what's given, what's in your diagram. But in this case, supplementary is the only way to go. So we get the 10y plus 6. That's our angle highlighted in green. And then the angle right next to it, this guy here. Those two come together to make the linear pair, which again adds to 180. So here we do need to combine some like terms first. We have 6 and 124. 6 plus 124 is 130. And now it's just a two-step equation. Taking away 130 from both sides, that will get the 10y by itself. 180 minus 130 is 50. And then dividing both sides by 5, we'll get that value of y for you. Sorry, not 5. Dividing both sides by 10. Getting a step ahead of myself because the final answer will be 5. 50 divided by 10 is 5. So you can go ahead and substitute that 5 back in just to double check your work. 10 times 5 is 50. 50 plus 6 is 56. And again, what we're expecting here is two angles that are supplementary. So that 56 plus 124 does equal 180. So this one does check out. So again, we had two answers here, a value for 5, a value for y, and a value for x. Good to go.